Brilliance Audio presents the unabridged recording of God's Bankers, A History of Money and Power at the Vatican by Gerald Posner. Performed by Tom Parks. To Tricia, my muse and eternal love. Preface. In 1984, I traveled to Buenos Aires as part of my research for a biography of Auschwitz's angel of death, Nazi Dr. Josef Mengele. I petitioned Argentina's first democratically elected president, Raúl Alfonsín, for access to the country's secret files on Mengele. There was no response for several weeks. Then, one night, at nearly 11 p.m., several uniformed police knocked on the door of my downtown hotel. I was put into the back seat of a blue Falcon, the very type of unmarked car that had become notorious under the military junta for taking away thousands of dissidents, many of whom were killed. But my trip ended at the main headquarters of the federal police. A grim-looking colonel informed me that he had been ordered to produce some documents. The folder I soon reviewed in an adjacent room contained a treasure trove of information about Josef Mengele and his decade as a fugitive in Argentina. Everything from the original International Red Cross passport under an alias, on which he had arrived from Europe, to details of how he stayed one step ahead of Nazi hunters. A few of those papers raised broader questions about whether Nazi war criminals had reached safe haven in South America after World War II with the assistance of a few ranking Catholic prelates in Rome. A few weeks later, I was in Asunción. There I toured the country with Colonel Alejandro von Eckstein, a military officer who was not only a good friend of the country's dictator, Alfredo Stroessner, but who had personally co-sponsored Mengele's application for Paraguayan citizenship. With von Eckstein in tow, I reviewed a small part of that country's sealed Mengele file. And I met a contingent of die-hard neo-Nazis in Nueva Bavaria, New Bavaria, in the south of the country. Mengele had found safe haven there in 1960. Feeling safe to talk openly because of von Eckstein's introduction, they regaled me with stories about how a local hotel in the rainforest had served decades earlier as a clearinghouse for some of the most notorious Nazis. And mixed in those stories were references once again.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?